we didn't talk about, let's say 15 years ago, and it's been on the upswing. What we're going to be doing is teaching you what to look for, what you need to know, and how to prevent workplace violence. And then also, if it does happen, we need to show you how to investigate those accidents that happen. So there we go. A lot of people go, well, I don't, I've read through the OSHA regulations. Paige, you read through that entire regulation book that OSHA has, right?
Oh, sure. It's my nighttime reading.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of stuff there, and I do try to read as much as I can of it. But if you read through the general industry manual, the construction one, nowhere does it say that I cannot punch my fellow worker in the nose. And with that, there's a lot of other things that people get hurt at work that aren't written into regulations. But OSHA has what they call the 5A1, the General Duty Clause. And basically what that does is it says that every employer has to give each of its employees a place of employment that is free of recognized hazards and free of hazards that are likely to cause death or serious physical harm. So this 5A1 General Duty Clause is the catch-all. And this is what OSHA uses a lot of times on accidents, injuries, deaths that have not been, it's not in the OSHA regs. And workplace violence, if an employee gets injured, you are in violation of the OSHA regulations, and you'll receive a 5A1 citation, which sometimes could be up to $7,000. If it's a repeat, can go up to $70,000. So, anyways, so yeah, save yourself some time trying to find it, in the regulation book, but it's OSHA's got it covered. They got it figured out, and they'll issue a 5A1 if any of your employees get injured on the job, even from workplace violence. Any questions so far? Okay, what is workplace violence? Here we got a little demonstration going on here. Good job on that one, Becky. Anyways, it's any threat of physical violence. Now listen to this, people. Harassment, intimidation, threatening, disruptive behaviors, any of those that occur on the work site, even verbal abuse. So this covers a wide range of to even categorize them in different types. We got 4 types of workplace violence. We get this type 1, which is when you policemen, the pizza delivery guys, things like that. There's a bad person, and they commit an actual criminal act. You got type 2, which could happen between or even one of your patients. Type 2 is very prevalent in hurt by patients when they're at work. And the one we see in the news and in the paper almost every day, this type 3. It's the violence between coworkers. When we started this, putting this webinar together, and type 3 is common out there too, and we're going to see some numbers here in a little bit. And of course, now type 4, this is when that domestic abuse spills over and comes into the workplace. These are the ones, again, you see these in the paper, on the news. Distraught or estranged boyfriend or husband comes in and does an act of violence at the...
Corky, is name-calling considered workplace violence?
Good names or bad names?
Gonna go with the bad ones.
Let's go with the bad ones. Yeah, that's a form of verbal abuse, of course. And start thinking about it. Everybody that's partaking in this webinar, we all have somebody. It happened when we were growing up, or superior in you, and they, it could be just teasing. Yeah, the name calling, and again, there's no place in the workplace for that. Bringing that up. started thinking about, they say workplace violence is getting bigger and bigger and more prevalent. And Paige, take a look. You got that little graph in front of you, that pie graph?
Yeah.
And what's the biggest killer out there right now? And we probably should have a webinar on this next. Take a look. What is it?
Transportation incidents look like they're the biggest.
People getting killed in their vehicles, driving around, flying, whatever it is. I mean, and you're looking at 39%. And, during my training, one of the things we cover a lot would be the next one. And you start looking at it, and the next biggest one is going to be that purple area Page, which is?
That is going to be, well, this area over here is falls, but
yeah. So you're looking at, and now you got them added together. So you got this 14% here, and you got 11% of homicides in that red area. But you start adding violent acts. Now, again, I was just looking up the definition of homicide, and homicide is when you kill somebody with a weapon. But then we got this other area over here that adds some more into there. So we got a total, if you count assaults, violent acts, and homicides, we're looking at, what is that, 18%?
Yep.
So here we are training all the time about falls, and the violent acts, workplace violence is right there with falls. It's stunning, the numbers, and there's really no subpart in the OSHA reg book that talks about this. We got a whole subpart, fall protection. We got a subpart talking about struck by and highway accidents, but there's no subpart talking about homicides and workplace violence. So the numbers are staggering. This chart here, we're still killing over 4,000 people a year out there. People that actually go to work and don't come home to their families. 4,000. So you're looking at, what is that, between 12 and 15 workers a day, Paige. Unbelievable.
That really is.
Yeah, and terrible. So, okay, so we're not only are we losing lives, and we got a lot of business people, watching this webinar right now. The other thing is the economic. I mean, businesses always look at the bottom line. And here's what's going on. We have 500,000 employees are taken off because of this workplace violence. We got over a million lost work days every year. You have an incident at your place of work, they usually shut down for the day. Now you got lost work, man hours, work days. Now you got to worry about, you got lost wages, 55 million the last time they checked. These are all from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics is where these numbers are coming from. So, of course, getting back to work, getting the crew going again is going to cut back in your productivity. I'm sure the lawyers are going to get involved. Maybe there's some property damage. If you folks get a chance after we get done with this webinar, just go to YouTube and Google in workplace violence, and the videos, they're all on surveillance videos, and workers coming unglued at work, and it's just one after another after another. And so and the property damage they do. I saw one person that was getting fired, and her boss stepped out of the room, and his computer was demolished in a matter of 10 seconds. Here's a big one: diminished public image. How many of you have heard that phrase, going postal? You know how good that was for you know what that did to the Postal Service, U.S. Postal Service? Paige, you know where that came from? You've heard that, right?
I've heard it, but I'm not sure where it came from now.
That came, the first time it was coined was like in 1993, if you remember the 1900s, Paige. And that 1993, I think a paper down in Florida coined it. But back in 1986, postal worker went in, killed a few of his fellow workers, and it was in the paper. Then, of course, it happened again a couple of years later. So then there was about 3 or 4 instances where this happened. All of a sudden now, when there's workplace violence, the first thing they mention is, oh, somebody went postal. And the post office has been trying to get, shake that image, but it's destroyed their public image. And things like that. So it's got quite an economic place, and it's been doing that for the last 15 years. So just homicides, 506 the last time we counted in America's workplaces. So that's basically, what, is that 10 a week, Paige? I'm doing 52 weeks in a year, right?
Yeah, that's about.
Yeah, unbelievable. Here's some things to start thinking about. Get some posters up, get your workers aware. Let's stop the violence. The bullying. We got to make sure that does stop too. And these are all statistics from from 2011. But again, when we're talking homicides, Paige, were you going to ask something about suicides or something?
I did. I had a question, as to whether or not that counted as an act of workplace violence.
If the person died in a workplace, by definition, OSHA has to come out and investigate because they died at work. And I think that, what was the number I saw the other day? There was 270 suicides at work. And again, even if you have a suicide at work, they inflicted the wounds themselves, you're still going to have the, and of course, what that we talked about in the last slide, affecting your business. So anyways, here's some nice little signs you can start putting up, start talking about it with your workers. That's good to do. Anyways, we talked earlier about verbal abuse, and of course, yes, verbal abuse, calling names, NIOSH. And that verbal abuse is a hazard on the job. And again, and then they even go a little further. Start thinking about it. Paige, you were hired to do certain tasks there at Lancaster Safety. And what if they started saying, okay, Paige, now you got to start, cleaning the toilets at the work. You're going to have to start shoveling the walks. You're doing stuff out of your scope, and they're, you're being belittled by what you originally were contracted to do. Do you see how that would affect your mental state?
Yeah, definitely.
How would you feel if you got things switched around on you like that? It's not fair.
Yeah, I'd be a little confused, a little upset about that, but that's why we're talking about it.
Yeah. People could complain about your job performance, your appearance. Start calling you names because you got certain things wrong with your body or whatever, and people even use verbal abuse to even threaten cause harm. Now, with that, we're not encouraging people to start packing iron to work or anything like that. They've done studies, and that does not cut down on workplace violence. Right now, again, we just talked about a homicide, the 4th leading killer on the job in the United States, 506. Here's the one. Look at this page. I'm glad to be a man. Homicide is the leading cause of death for women in the workplace.
I actually heard women are 3 times more likely than a man to be a victim of homicide in the workplace.
And those numbers are staggering. Now, do you have any idea why more women are, murdered or, an act of homicide at work than guys?
No, I'm not sure. Could be because women are sometimes perceived as being weaker than men, but
it's our
could be the reason.
Yeah, it's our culture, and men, when they go over the edge, seem to, it's an ongoing problem here in America, and it's sad to say, but it's spilled into the workplace. And again, you got to give your employees a safe place to work. So again, let's talk about who's at risk. Okay. Basically, it's everybody out there. Every worker in your office, workplace, work site, whatever it is vulnerable to this workplace violence. Last year we had 2 million cases that were reported of workplace violence, 2 million, and we killed, you know, in the 500 range. But guess how many went undocumented, unreported? Probably another, probably double that at least. Because people, I mean, I work construction. I was telling you about that, Paige, and it's a different culture out there. Construction workers like to use their physical attributes to beat sense into each other when they're working. It's a rough game, and if you get in a fist fight at work, it's usually not reported. So that 2 million number is a lot more than what we're seeing there. Have we gotten any questions yet, Paige?
I don't think so. There's one that came through. It's kind of backtracking a little bit, but we asked about whether or not companies could post surveillance on YouTube.
Wow. Well, we'd have to call the legal department on that one. I really don't know. There's a lot of stuff on that YouTube.
There is, yeah, I'm not sure. Something to look into.
Yep. So, but can they set up surveillance cameras?
I think so.
I mean, yeah, we all do it. You know, a lot of places I work have had them set up, and it's I think as long as they post signs. But again, that's that lawyer department. Okay, so let's find out where these acts of violence are happening at. Okay, they're happening at businesses that have money, exchange money, where there's employee and customers working. They happen in isolated areas, bad lighting, things like that. They happen a lot where alcohol is served. And I don't know, the reason behind that, I know you want to know about this one, Paige. You know, why were the alcohol served? I mean, you get people drinking alcohol, the next thing you know, they think they're 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And people do things that they normally wouldn't do. You got people that drink so much that they don't know what they're doing. So if any of our customers here or that are on the webinar have, you know, where alcohol's being served, we got the holiday season coming up, Christmas parties, company Christmas parties. A lot of them have gone to no alcohol because they were having those confrontations at the Christmas parties. So alcohol does change the way people act. And, of course, working at night, we all know the criminals, the bad guys like to sneak around at night. And then we got some of our customers, clients, are working in high-crime areas. And you got to be aware of those. And so now we have identified where those are going to occur. Let's go back to our caregivers, these people in the healthcare industry. I read up on this, and again, you got people working in mental health facilities. You got people that are already unstable, or you're working in places where people are, you know, their drugs are that they're given after surgery. It makes them do things they don't remember. You got the poor delivery drivers going into different neighborhoods, and people know they have goods, they might need them, they might want to assault them to get whatever goods they have. The guy driving the, you know, delivering the Twinkies in the bad area of town. And then these poor customer service agents. Paige, have you ever been at an airport and missed a flight? Or your flight got canceled?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and everybody goes over to that poor gal over at the customer service counter. And, you know, it's, you know, your flight's delayed because of weather, and they just go after her. I mean, those people are very well trained. Next time you get a chance, watch what they do. And they're doing exactly what we're going to be talking about here in the later on in our webinar of how they deal with
Courtney,
those.
Back to the Christmas party comment you made. We have a question. If there's a fight after hours at a Christmas party, is that still to be considered workplace violence?
Again, I don't have my law degree. I got my carpenter degree. I would think so. It's a company function, wouldn't you think?
I would think if you're, you know, at a company function, I would think it is still considered workplace violence.
Yes, good one. So it ends up out in the parking lot. Wow. Yeah, I've been to some of those parties, you know. But good question, and yeah, we'll see if we can get a legal answer on that one, but I believe we're correct on that one, I would think.
Oh, here's another one, too. What do we think makes people not report fights to management? That's a good one.
Oh, very good one. I'm going to give you my answer, and Paige, I'm sure you might have a different angle on it, too. Okay, I'm a construction worker. I get in a fight with one of the guys on the job site. Am I going to go be a tattletale or rat that person out? Guaranteed, the culture in construction is you don't do that. It's an unwritten law. And that's what's ruling this, and that's why these numbers are so low, because of people, their pride. I don't want to be complaining somebody, punched me in the nose, and that's the answer I get, from the construction guys. Paige, what do you think, coming from, you got the more of the office background, correct?
Right, yeah. I mean, working in an office, I think that people don't report it because they're afraid to appear weak or to get in trouble for being involved and sticking up for themselves when something comes up. They might be afraid of, again, the tattling thing I think would come into effect in an office too. You don't want to be a tattletale, but, I think that if it needs to be taken seriously also.
Yeah, can you believe that? I mean, we're all grown adults, and we still have these fears and interpretations that, just like when we were in grade school, it hasn't changed any, and it needs to change because it's not right. Every incident, one of the things, we looked at the numbers of how many people are getting killed. When we look at the other things, let's go to falls. The reason the number of falls, deaths from falls and injuries from falls are going down is because we are looking at the leading indicators, not the lagging indicators. We're looking at, wow, I almost fell. I had a near miss. And the reporting of near misses cuts down on the actual instances of accidents and injuries. Does that make sense, Paige? Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get that information and those little tidbits. Hey, there was a scuffle in the back, back parking lot last night. Well, that's good news. Nobody got hurt. Take that information, take it back to your safety committee, talk about it. How can we keep this from happening?
I think, too, Corky, a company's handbook is incredibly important. Management should really encourage that they encourage reporting, so that way you're not afraid to go to them when you get to a situation that you need to report. I think that's a very important policy that companies should have in their handbook, So you know who to go to and who to report to when you have problems. So you address it before there is an issue, and it's not, you don't have a worker who's been keeping all this stuff built up for months and months, and then something small happens and they snap, and all of a sudden management's finding about 30 different things that they've been upset about and that weren't addressed when they could have been addressed and, put to bed a long time ago.
Right. And a safety is so valuable in a case like that. People feel a little bit easier talking to a safety committee instead of going to HR. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's usually made of their co-workers, and they can confide in them and talk to them. And yeah, safety committee. And great idea, the handbook, the zero tolerance policy, talking about it, getting it out there, reminding the workers. That's how you keep these acts of violence from happening. And then here's something that was just in the news, law enforcement agents. Now, they just had things going on in Ferguson, and those law enforcement guys. And if you watch what they did, watch on the news, and they did it exactly right to keep the violence down. They approached them in a non-aggressive way. They, they didn't come out with guns drawn or anything like that, and they diffused the situation. Anyways, like we were talking, workplace violence can happen anywhere. Take a look at this picture of bottom right-hand corner. A lot of workplaces have this guy. They got the one guy, the yeller, and the other guy that's just sitting there, putting up with it. Start reading the body language of your fellow workers. You're looking at this guy right here on the far right. You can just see he's trying not to listen to it. He's just sort of zoning it out, but it's getting to him. And if this keeps up, what's going to happen after this, Paige?
I don't want to know, to be honest. Yeah, he looks like he's been dealing with this day in and day out, and a person can only take so much of that before they just snap, and you don't want that in your workplace by any means.
Right. And this, again, just like safety, regular safety on your work sites and in your office and workplace, it's everybody's job. Safety is. You should see this going on. If you see this kind of conversation, well, it's not a conversation, it's a yelling match, and the other guy's taking it all. With the one guy's following company procedures. You can't be yelling and you can't do that. The other guy's breaking company procedures. This is when other workers need to come in and help out. It takes everybody at a place of employment to make it safe, not just the safety person. So, yeah, very good. So, anyways, okay, here's what we're going to do. How we're going to prevent this violence. You start evaluating your work site. Start looking at areas where these incidents can happen. You know, a lot of times they'll happen in secluded areas. You know, the people that like to, that are more to point to where they'll do the violence at work. They pick areas that are secluded, maybe where there's no cameras, maybe where they're not monitored. You know, maybe down the hallway, down from the bathroom, or something like that. And so try to get those places, lit up better, get good surveillance, maybe move desks around so everybody can see what's going on. The other thing is, and like we talked about earlier, get a zero tolerance policy going, and it covers everybody. Now here's the thing with our healthcare workers. Again, you got these patients coming in. They need to be reminded, hey, we have a zero tolerance policy against workplace violence, and so now you're informing your clients and your people that you work with about it. And then the other thing is too, the visitors and the contractors. A lot of our clients do work in other people's facilities, and they need to know about this zero tolerance policy. That's why the posters help out a lot. They're a constant reminder out there. Put it on the entry door, things like that. And again, there it is, Paige. Put it in the handbook, just like you were saying. Part of their whole illness prevention program. Very good. So here's something that reminded me of, at work. Just little simple horseplay. Here's a guy, getting something on the file cabinet. His buddy thinks it's a big joke and give him a little kick in the rear end there. Okay, who knows this guy that's bent over, how his day's been going? Him and his wife, are they getting along good? Is his mortgage due, or is he behind in a mortgage payment? You start adding all the little things up in that guy's brain, and this little kick to the behind could be the one that just pushes them over to snap. So no room for horseplay. I know most, I think all employee handbooks have that in there. But, somebody thinking that this, and again, this is where other workers need to step in and say, hey, I'm sorry, Joe, that's unacceptable. We don't do that here. How would you like it if somebody did to you? And then sort of use that type of mentality with them, and hopefully you can diffuse the situation. But, yeah, who knows what's going on in that guy's mind. Again, how are we going to reduce it or prevent this violence going on? You're going to be get that communication of the zero tolerance policy out, training of employees. Now, OSHA, almost every citation I see comes back, the workers were not trained. And training is so big in the with OSHA, and of course that's we do a lot of training at Lancaster safety, and train your employees how to deal with those situations. Maybe do some role playing. Teach them how to diffuse a situation. And again, sometimes this works, and but just have a sheet that they sign that goes in their folder, their HR folder, saying, yes, I agree, zero tolerance. Sometimes when people put a signature on something, it's giving you their word, and it helps. A little thing like that. But then again, you still got, and yeah, you ever gotten mad at work, Paige?
Oh, I've gotten frustrated once or twice, I'd say, but I like the picture you have there. Talk or walk it out. I think that's the most important saying if you're angry, just take a minute, take a walk, get away from the situation for 5 minutes, and then, we like to cool down before we discuss anything.
Yeah. So you didn't get to the point the smoke was coming out of your ears?
Oh, no.
Well, so
another thing too, Corky, is this is something that LSCI can provide in our annual trainings as well. When we come in and do our trainings, this is a topic that we can go over, as well for our clients. So that's something for everyone to keep in mind when their annual training's coming up. We can address this too. Yeah,
definitely. And with the numbers increasing each year in workplace violence, it's definitely got to be part of, the safety handbook and
that's the first thing I did when I got here my first day. Before I even was sitting in my office working, that was, we went through this training, and they explained to me the zero tolerance policy, where it's not even enough to just report what's happening. You have to stop it happening when you see it happening. Like you said with the guy kicking the other guy, you got to step in and say, hey, that's not acceptable. We're at work. You don't do that. You don't treat people like that. And something very important that the zero tolerance policy, I think, does need to be in every workplace, regardless of what industry you're in.
Definitely. So, this will help prevent any instances at your work. Have you had any questions come in, Paige?
I've been addressing them as they came, so no more right now. We can keep moving.
All right, here we go. So now here's something that's been working out for a lot of companies is, again, they're encourage employees not to carry a lot of money. Well, that's working pretty good in this economy right now. People are carrying less and less money. Keep them from traveling alone. We already talked about, letting employees know that it's not acceptable to have any type of violence. But now here's the one: require proper identification. So when it comes to a lot of businesses, offices, and you can see how this has evolved, in the last 15 years. Even construction sites are requiring a badge and a lanyard. And do you guys have lanyards or badges there, Paige?
We don't have lanyards or badges, but we do have a code that you have to punch in to get into our doors, so you can't be granted access into the offices unless you've been buzzed in by an employee. So we don't have name badges, but we do have a security system, and we have a camera, too, that we can view from our desks and see who's trying to buzz in, whether it be the UPS guy or someone coming in for a meeting or a tour of our facility. We know who's coming in, and we have them sign in as well, and our visitors all have badges, so we can identify that they've been signed in by the appropriate personnel, and we know they belong in here if they have a badge.
Perfect plan. And I encourage everybody that's listening to look at who they're letting in their front doors or onto their job sites. Start this visitor identification, visitor badges, great idea. Signing in, knowing who they are, it just sets a tone, a professional tone for the entire site, and it keeps people from doing acts of violence. Very good. So, okay, now we got our...
Another question real quick. We have guys going into businesses by themselves to make repairs. They go to some pretty bad neighborhoods. Is it acceptable to carry weapons?
Again, that sounds like one of those lawyer questions. I'm thinking, company policy. I know from what I was reading, I was reading up quite a bit to get ready for this webinar. Violence brings on more violence. Now, I know where they're coming from, and I don't want to get into the gun issues and things like that, but the studies show that, and if you look at what was going on when those policemen went into, Ferguson, one of the things they said, let's keep they found out if the cops go in there without guns, there's less chance of gun violence. And
I think, too, these tips you have coming up, too, would be maybe a better way to address the violence issue, too. Good tips for people and, things like security cameras, security guards, different safety precautions, I think, would be, the better method to take than, acting violence with violence right back. So I think that these tips, too, that are about to come up here would be a great way to address the issue as well.
Yeah, so start thinking about if you are doing high crime areas, start, consider maybe getting an escort. I mean, a lot of times you can contact the police and say, hey, I got this delivery coming in. The area doesn't look safe. Can you guys help me out? And they'll bring a squad car by, things like that. I know the 7-Eleven by my house, they offer free coffee for all the cops. So there's always a cop hanging out over there, and place has never been robbed. Try to schedule your trips during the day. Again, daylight hours seem to cut down on the violence a little bit. Make sure you got a good address. Now, be careful. I've done this, and I think everybody, that's present right now, with that MapQuest, things like that. Sometimes they give you the wrong addresses, and just make sure everything, your address, your directions are accurate. Double checking before you go. And then the other one too, let your employer know where you're going and when you expect to get back. That way your manager can say, hey, Porky's been out for a while, he should have been back, let's do some checking, and sometimes will help with a situation that you might have gotten into. Again, keep your windows rolled up on your car and doors locked. It's always a good, safe thing to do. And here's another thing. We got a picture here of a parking lot. Again, where are you going to park at? Start planning. Just because it's easier and quicker doesn't mean it's safer. Now this person, you can see we got a nice street light or parking lot light way in that far corner. But yeah, okay, that's a good spot. But then you got to walk too far, and then you start thinking, well, to weigh out all your options, and just because it's quicker and safer, that usually means it's probably more dangerous. Does that make sense, Paige?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't really think about that.
So you want to park in well-lit areas. You want to make sure there's no bushes and shrubs around where people are going to be hiding around. Basically, the stuff we do every time when you go to your ATM. Before you jump out into your ATM, you're always looking around, make sure everything's safe, place is well lit. Okay, I'm going to go use my ATM. Use the same, common sense that you do there on your job site. If you are carrying like healthcare items, needles and drugs and things like that, supplies that people, want to steal, again, keep them in your trunk, keep them out of sight. Don't give the people any ideas of what you have that they might want to take from you. And again, before getting out of the car, check your surroundings again. And again, this is the one. If you feel uneasy, well, that's what the slide said. Uneasy. You know what, Paige? Uneasy is your guts. Listen to your guts, and they're usually right. You can feel danger. You can, I call it my spider senses. It works all the time. You can sort of see what's going on. You go, no, this ain't good. I'm going to come back later. You can always make that delivery at a different date. So do you think that helped out a little bit, Paige? There's some other things.
I think so, yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, some more tips for our service people and delivery workers. Again, stay alert. Look at every situation. Watch for signals. Again, you can see this gal here that's looking at her computer and stuff, and who knows, who's looking around. It looks like she's got a doctor's coat on, so she's probably got maybe some drugs, probably some needles, probably doing some home care for somebody. Look around before you get out. Look for people that are, angry, showing frustration, threatening gestures, gang signs, things like that. And again, we're looking at the drugs and the alcohol. And this is probably another reason, I don't know if a gun would be a good thing to take with you. You start thinking, okay, and I think we've all ran into them, people that are on drugs or on alcohol. You're in your normal frame of mind. These people are thinking in a completely different world. They usually don't know what they're doing, or they don't care what they're doing. There's this drug or this alcohol that is driving them, and they aren't thinking logically. And here you are, okay, you're thinking logically. Okay, if they pull a gun, I pull a gun. It's gonna go crazy because they're thinking completely different than again, you see weapons, don't even get out of your vehicle. You know, that's time to go. So here's what I want everybody to look at. If you do get in this situation, maintain a behavior that will diffuse a situation. Okay? Stay calm. I know I get excited and start yelling a little bit here, but no, stay calm. And a caring attitude. Hey, dude, I know where you're coming from. I understand what you're saying. I think we've all had some of this training in HR and at different points of our life, but show a caring attitude, and that can diffuse a lot of these situations. Don't go start matching threats, you know, like say, hey, I'm going to kick you, you know, no, I'm going to kick you. And no, just say, hey, dude, you know, I understand where you're coming from. You know, I feel your pain. It sounds silly, people, but the psychologists say this is the best way. Don't match threats. Don't give them orders either. You know, just say, hey, calm down. No, don't tell me what to do. Just say, hey, it'd be nice if you could calm down. I'm getting calm here. Let's relax. Let's keep it. You see what I'm saying, Paige? See how you get that calming attitude going?
Yeah, definitely. Acknowledging the other person's feelings too, putting yourself in, you know, their shoes definitely can help. Yeah,
yeah. I know how you feel. That one works all the time. I know where you're coming from. Very, very good. I mean, if you take anything out of this presentation right there, these four, let me see, four items can diffuse a lot of these workplace violence things. Okay, here's our service workers again, our deliveries guys. Avoid anything that could be interpreted as being aggressive. You know, your arms, you know how they tell you to go up to a bear to scare them away, you got to wave your arms to get big. That's exactly what you don't want to do. You don't want to get too close to them. You don't want to really touch them. Maybe sometimes a hug might be what they're looking for. So, I mean, you're going to have to anticipate this and analyze it, avoid touching that is unnecessary. And again, tone of voice will change the whole situation. A nice, calm voice will help out a lot. But what you're doing is always keep your pathway open. Always know which way you're going to get out of there if this whole thing goes bad. Again, a lot of these people are unstable. You don't know what they're going to do next. They aren't thinking rationally. So always have a plan how to get out. Again, trust your judgment, your gut feeling. If it doesn't feel right, more than likely it's not right. Get out of that situation. Again, here's something, you know, a lot of people will be verbally abusing you, and it's a good time to just say, hey, excuse me, but I don't appreciate the way you're talking to me, and leave it at that. And if they don't listen, just walk away and notify your employer, your manager. Okay? And again, if you feel threatened, leave immediately. I'm all for that. You know, what do they say? If you get in danger, the human will either fight or flight. And I'm into the flight part.
I'm all about
it's got me out of a lot of trouble. Works every time for me. So anyway, again, if there's any problems, report it to your manager, and again, if you have to, take it all the way to the police. So if all else fails and you do have an act of violence on your job site or at your place of work, here's what you got to do. And of course, you should have somebody that has first aid training right there nearby. Do a quick medical evaluation of the person that is hurt, give them their treatment. Again, you're going to call police, notify them of the incident, and then now we're getting into the legal part. You got to notify your victim or the person that got hurt of their legal right to press charges. Now it starts getting into, okay, talk to management. Let's get a full assessment. Let's see what happened here. Learn from your mistakes. If you do nothing, again, that's not what OSHA wants. They want you to look at this situation, find out what happened, how it happened, and how you're going to keep it from happening again. You're going to interview employees, find out their thoughts about the whole situation. If it's a very bad act of violence, counseling. You see it all the time on TV. First person there on that job, you know, they got the counselor from the police department, the chaplain or whatever. They're helping the people, and people need that, and then that's very important. And again, then monitor the trend. See what's going on. Did this happen before? Look at the leading indicators. See if you can stop this from happening again. So again, what are you going to do? Okay, you're checking out this act of violence. You're going to look at surveillance videos if you got them. Look at what time of day it happened. Maybe there's a pattern going on here. Maybe you need to bump up security at the end of the day. Maybe, you know, at lunchtime, whatever. Start looking at who's involved, what people are involved. Maybe it's the same guy that's causing all this trouble. Look at the work they're performing. Maybe the work is pushing them to snap. They actually did a survey on postal workers after all this going postal came out, and they started interviewing the postal people thinking that they were going to find out that they're unhappy and stuff, and they weren't. They were just, it just happened, and when you look at the percentage of workplace violence at the post office, it's way below the national average. So the whole postal thing is way blown out of proportion, but they were looking at what types of work they were doing. They thought, well, maybe the mail, you know, the letter sorters were doing it. No, it had nothing to do with that. So start looking at the work your workers are performing, where it happened, what circumstances were going on, what got the whole mess started, and start thinking about what corrective actions are you going to do? How are we going to fix this? And that's what we're looking for.
All right, Corky, we got a question that came in. It's about us having a stun gun or mace as an option for security if you're out at night alone and there's not an option of a buddy system or having a security guard.
Yeah, that's those
might be a lawyer
question,
but it's definitely a good question.
Yeah, and I'd say, you know, again, it's along the same lines as, you know, carrying a gun. Again, you have to check with company policy, and I know a lot of them won't let you use those. Now, again, and we probably need to look into this one, Paige, is, okay, they're off work, they're going to their car. I guess they're still in the company's parking lot. I think they're still covered. You know, that's all still part of being at work. I don't know. That's a great question. I'm sorry if I can't answer it because, again, I don't have my lawyer's license. I stay at Holiday Inn, but I don't have that. Yeah. Anyways.
We also had another participant ask if LSCI can provide our clients with a zero policy statement, and that is something that we can provide. We have a general statement that can be customized to a client's specific work. So that's another question we had come in, and that is something that we at LSCI can do.
Yeah, definitely we could do that for them. And again, that zero tolerance policy, it needs to be not just put in the handbook or not put in our binder and sit on a shelf. It needs to be talked about, mentioned every month, posters to reiterate it. And yeah, definitely. So we're looking at the corrective actions, and then continually talking about it. Take it to your safety committee. Talk about it, how we're going to stop this. Here's some of the things you can do. You ready? More lighting.
Ready.
Video surveillance, alarm systems. Again, now an alarm, people, you know, you got your keys that set off your car alarm. That usually works pretty good. An air horn, things like that. Again, you start getting into the mace and shocking the people. You're bringing violence with the violence, and if that's the last resort, I guess it's, you know, you're going to have to do it. But these other things have been known to work. Drop-off safes to limit the amount of cash. They do that at 7-Elevens. Keep the stuff the bad guys are looking for. So anyways, here's some other things you can do besides carrying that gun. Make sure your field staff has a working cell phone, handheld alarms, noise devices. Okay. Let your manager know exactly when you're leaving. Make sure, you know, if he wants you to call him when you get home, that's fine, you know, something like that. Again, we talked about using that buddy system. Maybe have a security officer there when people are getting off and walking to their vehicles. And again, don't enter areas that you feel are unsafe. And talk to your manager or safety committee of what areas you aren't happy with. So how are you going to avoid this, keep yourself safe? No workplaces, we can't guarantee any workplaces is going to be free of violence. But what you can do is pay attention, recognize the hazards, do the safety training, participate in your safety meetings, let your supervisors know of anything that happens, even how small it is. Those small things add up to one big thing, and they need to know about it. And here's a couple little signs here at the bottom. Avoid working alone. Use the check-in system. Respect others. That's a big one. No belittling, no harassing, playing tricks. If you see that going on, stop it immediately. You still can have fun at work and not be doing those belittling and those teasing and those little tricks on people. And again, start looking at the warning signs. If the worker gives a threat, take it serious. Get that information to the supervisor. Get that thing diffused right away. If you read a lot of these on the news, the person said, "Yeah, he said he was coming back," and well, then take that seriously and report anything to your supervisor. So, very good. So we got through that. Did we do it in time there, Paige?
We have 2 minutes. We're great on time.
We need some questions.
Yep,
Any
I have
questions?
another one that came in, and the question is, if a boss sends employee clothes to wear because they don't like yours, would that be considered workplace violence or harassment? I think it'd be more considered.
I wonder if they're talking about, I know on certain jobs you have to wear certain clothes, like fire-resistant clothing. I don't know if they're talking about that. It's hard to say if they're talking about, are they in a professional office, where they require certain dress code?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's see.
Yeah, I know in construction you got to,
I wouldn't think it was in the terms of if it's required personal protective equipment, then that's that's necessary. That's what you're doing to keep your employees safe. So I don't believe that would fall in any way under harassment because you're making sure they're safe. But if it's just your general attire, if it's not appropriate or if it's not inappropriate, they still have an issue with it, that I would wonder if that would fall under harassment.
Yeah, good question. I mean, if it's doing it to be mean or if it's doing it to be professional, you'd have to look at that. But yeah,
Definitely
you don't want to belittle anybody. Sometimes people can't afford the right clothing. Maybe you can help them out. It's a chance to help out a fellow worker. Use it as a plus.
Awesome.
Yeah. Any other there, Paige?
I've got one more question for you, and it's: are homicides going up each year? Is the rate of them increasing?
Yes, homicides are going up. Let me see. I got some figures here. Let's see. Yeah, homicides went up at about 50 more homicides last year than the year before. So I think I saw the number, they're up like 14%. And suicides are up too. It's a sad state out there, Paige. So
yep,
it's all
one
going
more
up.
question we got too. Should we train new hires on workplace violence, or can we wait for the annual safety training?
From what we just saw in this presentation, it should be in your employee handbook. So those are usually issued right when the person's hired. It should be covered that first day, and get it out there right away. Waiting a year, I think, would not be a wise decision.
I agree. LSCI has great new hire training options as well, so we can use GoToMeeting, what we're using right now, and train people that way as well to get them up to speed. So looks like we're pretty much out of time, but real quick before everyone logs off, thank you so much for attending. Thank you, Corky. That was great. Definitely a lot of good information for everyone to take away from this. We do have our next webinar coming up in January. It is going to be 2 sessions, so one on January 7th, one on January 14th at the same time, 3 p.m. Eastern. And this one is going to be about OSHA and their new changes to injury reporting requirements. So definitely something that everybody can relate to, and definitely an important one to cover. It's something that's very important in our workplaces.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad we're covering those because that's some big changes for sure.
Yep, the record keeping will definitely be something that we need to address. So again, sign up on our website, at the LSCI website, to attend that webinar. And also make sure you guys follow us on Facebook. We're on Twitter, Google+, YouTube, and LinkedIn as well. So check us out. We have everything up there and all the information you need. And also we have our monthly newsletters as well that you can sign up for off our website. So again, thank you everyone for attending, and have a great rest of your night.
Thank you, Paige, and have a safe day, everybody.
You too, Corky. Bye-bye.